So we got some really amazing recaps to recap. I guess let's get Adventure Time out of the way.
It's time for an adventure.
So this episode, it's called Broke His Crown, and it picks up the dangling plot thread left by... it was the last
I forgot when that happened.
It was in the bomb. It was in the last bomb.
Yeah. It was the last episode of the bomb.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but it was the one where, the foxes stole the crown at the behest of Magic Betty. And
right.
she did something to the crown. And this is the resolution, or at least partial resolution of what that is. Before we get into that, there's a line of dialogue that is really so... It's just the writer's frustration coming out. And do you know the line I'm talking about?
When Simon's like, so you have a boyfriend?
No, earlier than that.
In the beginning?
In the beginning.
Oh. When
Marcy and Peebs are on... It's not the Morrow. It's the Hawk. Because the Morrow is the Swan.
Oh, she has so many mounts. She's so overleveled.
I love her outfit in this, by the way. I think it might be my favorite PB outfit. I love the crown underneath the hair look. Very cool.
And Marcy looked great, too. The line was like, you don't need to tell me that, girlfriend.
Yeah.
And almost like the intonation represented the frustration that they can't make it explicitly canon.
Yeah, cause I wanted to try and make this is just me projecting, but it's it sounded forced on purpose.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Huh.
Then maybe it is just us being mad.
I don't know. I really loved the line. The thing where she was talking to Simon stood out more to me because it was something I related to much more.
It was
from personal experience.
It was a lot more subtle. It purposefully draws the camera back to have Bubblegum in the shot, looking back at the conversation.
Yeah, they know. I think they know what they're doing. This is a smart team.
No, you think? They're not making... totally they know what they're doing. They want to do it. They want it so bad.
They go to a dinner party with the Ice King, and Simon starts acting wacky because the crown is fucking him up. So they bring it back to the lab, and they go inside the crown using a VR Inception headset. And what I find interesting is that the characters figure out what's going on inside the crown pretty quickly, but they never, explain it to the audience, because they figure the audience is going to figure it out too, because it's not that tough, I don't think. But I mean, that's coming from me, a basically 25-year-old man. I'm not a kid watching. I'm not the target audience. I don't know how obvious it is to them. But the idea is that the spirit of everybody who has worn the crown, even briefly, is trapped in the crown. We see Simon, we see Gunther, we see...
Santa Claus.
We see the original Santa, which, Marcy knows about, Peebs hasn't. Which, I knew this, but I had forgotten that Marcy is older than Peebs. Because I guess because of the way Peebs carries herself, you assume she's older.
I mean, she's really fucking old.
They're both so old, in terms of counting years. Yeah.
The only thing that matters is that Marceline remembers a world before the Mushroom Wars, and PB was born directly because of it.
But she liked home movies.
Probably.
Yeah, and it's also implied that Evergreen is in there somewhere. Not Finn, though, because that's an alternate universe, and I think with the episode crossover, they want to not ever deal with a multiverse again.
Yeah, they pretty much,
closed it, because it's because that's a great way to fuck up your canon forever. That's what ruined Hitchhiker's Guide in the last book, was him trying to patch it up.
Betty seemed to be wanting to fix the crown, but it seemed to be making it worse, and then they sort of just shut it down. So it's what was it supposed to do, and was it doing it right?
Well, I mean, Betty been wanting to cure Simon since she came to this dimension.
Yeah, but ever since she fused with Magic Man, she's lost her mind. She's got the whole madness, sadness thing going on. And
I still hate that, by the way.
I think Huntress Wizard referenced it in the last episode, that it's just a principle of magic.
Yeah.
I may be misremembering
that you go insane.
No, I just hate that she fused specifically with Magic Man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Do you not like Magic Man?
Yeah, so the point is that, she's not acting logically. She's not thinking logically. And what she was doing is probably not the most logical solution.
Whatever it was.
I guess, yeah.
But apparently a remnant of that program of Betty, which Simon is able to unmadnessify, stays in the crown with this ghost of Simon or whatever. It's another possibly dangling plot thread. I guess because it
technically wore the crown in a way.
Possibly,
maybe
it's pretty ambiguous ending.
Because PB made it seem like everything was cool.
Just some techno babble.
And then there was also this sort of B plot with Marcy and PB's relationship where Marcy's like, oh, you gotta make time for personal, which has always been there. But then PB's being like, I like science. You never cared that I like science. Why don't you care about the science that I like?
I'm not the only person who doesn't give a shit here.
I got 2 Oculus Rifts. Do you know how hard that was?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to see them all together. It was so cool to see, like, Simon and, like, grown-up Marcy, like, just chilling and catching up. Like, and it felt so genuine where, she was talking about her, like, what's his face? Ash. And he's like, oh, man, if I would have been there, I would have punched him in the face. And Marcy, and he was like, I could punch my own doobers in the face. And it was like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, they'll just like, so do you have a boyfriend? She's like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
That's the one. That's what you do. That's what you do when somebody asks how your heterosexual life is going. Oof, about that. Woo, it's going great, just...
I mean, I'm just focusing on myself right now,
God.
Okay.
Oof.
What's next?
Clarence has been on fire recently.
It is smoking hot.
Yeah.
We need to do another episode on Clarence.
We do.
Yeah.
It's like we've revisited Steven twice so far because it deserves it, and it's like a big thing with a lot of continuity and plot and everything. Clarence also deserves because it's obviously doesn't have the continuity and plot and everything, but it's a great show, and we talked about it before it had a chance to completely define itself. Which I think it's honestly
utterly undefinable.
And every episode is so fucking packed. We can't even fit it into this section anymore.
Yeah, so the Tales of Mardrynia. It's like was that more Nim or was that more Redwall? I feel like it was more Nim.
Well, yeah, the mouse especially was obviously Brisby.
Yeah, the squirrel was definitely Mrs. Brisby. I mean, she had the same body language and the thing about her 2 sons and the cape
and like the shawl cape thing.
Yeah,
I like the lizard.
I love the lizard. The musical number. So this episode stars my favorite character, Percy, who becomes very
His favorite.
What I love about Percy is that even when he's happy and there's a distinct happy tone in his voice, he always sounds like he's about to cry.
So Percy becomes obsessed with this series of like high fantasy woodland animal books that Miss Baker has been reading in class. And he's the only one that likes it, and he thinks it's real, or he wants it to be real. And Clarence, being the great, wonderful person he is like, I believe you, buddy. I think it'd be really cool if they were real too. So he invites him over to his house. They have a play date. Where Clarence tries to do he does his Clarence thing. He makes a little Clarence-style creative project, as his mother would call it, where he just grabs a bunch of animals and puts them in like an inflatable kiddie pool with some boxes and shit and calls it a city.
I love how he captured the pigeon. It's the least intuitive way to do it, possibly.
Yeah, with the birdseed in his tummy tum. I love this child. I love that child so much.
At first, I thought that was going to be a purely unnecessary flashback of him just snatching up the aminals, which I love. I appreciate the unnecessary flashback that shows us what we already fucking know as a comedic device. But man, the bit with the pigeon surprised me.
Percy, he really wants this to be real. Like, really super bad. And Clarence is along for the ride initially, but for Clarence, this is playtime. Clarence has an amazing imagination, but he knows the difference between... For the most part, he knows the difference between his imagination and playing.
You can trick him really easily into thinking stuff's real, but when it's his decision, he knows.
Yeah. Percy does not. So Clarence is like, this has been fun. We can't take them outside of the garage because my mom will be mad at me. Let's get some pizza. I got some pizza dollars. They've got tape on them. And order a pizza.
He's on the phone and he explicitly says, like, oh, we're not playing that right now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what a kid thing to say. I love this show.
I know, and it's like, Clarence, he's in a different mode now. He's like, okay, we're not playing that game right now. Because when you're playing that game, you're, like, really immersed in it, and then when you're done, you're, like, done for the moment, right?
It's like, oh, pizza!
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's time to get some pizza. It's time to go to the next phase of this playdate sleepover.
Fuck my immense childhood imagination and creativity. It's fucking pizza, man!
Percy doesn't give up. He takes the pizza when it arrives, while Clarence is busy being Clarence with the pizza delivery man. At first, it just seems like he's taking up his time, but then they just actually start playing.
They get into it?
Yeah.
Clarence is infectious. I love him.
I love him so much. Percy takes the pizza into the garage with the aminals. Oh! Yeah. And we keep getting these cutaways to, like, sort of like a Disney-style Secret of NIMH, like Animal Society thing.
A very Bluethy thing.
Yeah, very Bluethy.
Yeah, it's very Bluthian.
That we're assuming are just his fantasies, or we're not sure because this show is ridiculous and nobody knows. And the scene with the feast, and he's sort of given himself a little persona as this mouse. So he's injected himself.
Let's be honest.
This fursona, he injects himself into the narrative. And when Clarence opens the door, what we find is pure horror.
Oh, no.
It was a really well shot sequence because it's cutting back and forth between Percy's fantasy and the reality that Clarence is seeing. And it's just like...
It's terrifying.
It's like something out of a Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like a Hitchcock movie or something. Like, I don't know. It was really messed up. And then, it progresses. Clarence is like, this is bad and wrong. But he's still being Clarence. Like, he treats Percy like his baby.
Yeah.
Like, he cleans him up in the tub.
He gives him a bath.
Tucks him in. Kisses him on the forehead. I love Clarence.
He half crawls into bed and immediately falls asleep.
Yeah.
Then we get a musical number in the middle of the night. It's ridiculous. It gets so Bluthian with the prophecy and, like, the animal-human relationship, that pink one. And it sort of comes to a head with Percy just dumping all these animals on Clarence's sleeping face.
Yeah.
Oh, God. He's crazy. I thought he was just like a cute nincompoop, but now he's just like a really insane nincompoop.
He's detached.
Well, he has that breakdown at the end where he's like, I know it's not real, but my life is the worst. I live in Aberdale. I need this to be real.
And Clarence is like, hey man, I'm not going to write this down. Start from the beginning.
Oh, man.
And then they end up reading that story to the class, and Nina mentioned this, the grossest thing this show has done since the Deviled Egg episode, and I still don't think it's as gross as that, but it's very gross. One of the beetles gets in Benson's hair, and then crawls in his eyeball!
And they keep going back to it, like seeing it crawl all around inside his eyeball.
And then they live there.
And I was utterly shocked that happened. I was like, where the fuck did this come from?
The other one we're going to talk about was the Coogan episode, which is like if all the characters of Clarence found themselves in Gravity Falls, how they would fuck it up.
Yeah.
It also has some, like, National Treasure elements to it.
Yeah.
Due to how it was about some, like, weirdo, like, overblown legend based almost specifically in a school, it was also giving me, like, Recess vibes.
Yeah, a little bit, definitely. Jeff is the best in this episode.
It's another great example of this show's the extremely blurry line between reality and the fantastical, where this whole quest is set up by Miss Baker as a way of alternative teaching, but then they keep going with it, not convinced that it's over, and they find out that it's kind of real. Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
like the episode
every time they pull shit like that, it's always a joke, but it is for real and happening in the meta narrative. So it's like,
yeah,
you guys, I think Clarence is magical realism.
Well, yeah, because it's how a child sees the world. But I loved it how, like, as soon as you thought the episode was gonna be over, it kept going for like another 5 minutes.
The first episode that played with this kind of stuff was the Rough Riders one, where the chicken takes over the school, but it turned out that was a dream or something, or a report that they made. That was all fake. The first time it was like, no, this bizarre, impossible thing is completely real, was the episode with Balance, the circus freak who looked just like Clarence. That was the first time, unless there was a episode I missed or forgot about, that was the first time this show was like, no, this is a crazy, insane thing that happened.
I mean, it's the Southwest. Anything can happen there. I mean, it's very hot. I adored this episode. I loved how it kept going. I loved how elaborate Miss Baker made the puzzles. Like, the fact that Clarence even figured it out was, almost purely by happenstance. I love the reference to the Great Gatsby pop-up book.
Yes! The audiobook of, the woman's like, ay, te amo, porque no me quieres? And he's like, honey, you gotta come closer, I can't understand anything you're saying. It's a Scottish accent, actually, but I can't do that.
Oh my god. I love the show so much.
Yeah, we've definitely sometime soon have to do a retrospective episode about it, because it's...
I guess whenever the next season ends.
Yeah, if you listen back to our first episode, we're still very rough around the edges, and I think what we said is correct for what we had seen, but that was such a small picture.
I think we were still, I mean, I can't remember because obviously the episode on it and then our recaps kind of blended in my head, but I think even back then we still were kind of this show, even that early on, was still doing different things every episode, but obviously now it's just...
We're still doing surprising things, but not this surprising.
No. I mean, it still has the same spirit of, being this world through the imagination, through this perspective of this kid. It's still a kid
nothing
world.
We said, we don't have to rescind anything we
said.
Yeah,
that's what I like. I do think those first couple of episodes were a way to get a foot in the door for them to do this much stranger show than what they initially, I think, pitched.
Because this was an example of the group effort of the team superseding, the creator's original vision, because that motherfucker's gone. And supposedly he didn't do much in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, fuck that dude. And maybe his bullshit was holding it back. Maybe once he was gone, it's let's kind of go out of control with this.
Yeah, I know Spencer Rothbell has been a major writing team for all these episodes.
You know what I did kind of notice? That, around the time... around season 2, they started to, I'm pretty sure they started purposefully putting more students of color in group shots and stuff.
Yeah, they always had those kids. But
maybe. I haven't noticed.
I mean, I feel like they've just featured the kids more. All the different kids. Even in this last episode, we featured what was her name, Amber? And we learned some stuff about her.
Amy and Melissa.
Because I do remember that was one of my initial kind of cons against the show initially when we first reviewed it, was most of the cast is pretty white.
Yeah, that's still very much the case.
And but I felt like I look out for it, and I noticed in group shots there's, I don't even remember seeing these kids before, but I see them now and they're not white, so I'm wondering if they're making more of a conscious effort to be cool.
It's certainly possible. I'd like to think that.
Shoutouts ready?
Yeah, I got some.
You always ask her for shoutouts, unsure if she's ever gonna have any. You're always do we have any? And 1 week she's just gonna be no.
Yeah, so we got an email where they asked us if, when we talk about cartoons, do we ever sort of do it by describing other cartoons that we know, saying that this is sort of a mix between this and this, or this reminds me of this from this one cartoon I already like. and therefore it like makes it easier for me to get into the cartoon. That's the new cartoon.
And also, like, cartoons sharing talent. Like, actually, the main reason why I wanted to check out Home Movies is because I learned that H. John Benjamin was in it, and I loved him on Archer.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the main reason why I checked it out.
That's so weird, because I had the opposite reason for wanting to watch Archer.
Yeah, because you watched them in chronological order.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, definitely, all the time.
They also mentioned in this email, Dave the Barbarian, which I really want to revisit because I remember loving it, but I was also in middle school and my comedy sensibilities weren't as refined.
I remember some specific bits. I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah, I think we can look into it.
That silly piggy chuckles. But so wait, are they asking us if we like to compare cartoons to other cartoons to talk about them?
Yeah, like if we've had a similar experience, I guess. I guess you guys already did that.
I don't do it as a habit. If there's a really, really direct, obvious parallel to draw, I want to talk about it. But honestly, I always find it on some level a little regressive to go like, oh, it's just like this cartoon, because it's like,
it's reductive. Now, one thing I will do though is like when Steven Universe was just dropped, and I was on the ground floor of that and was trying to pitch it to other people. One thing I said, like, if you like Adventure Time, the show comes from a similar place of artistic sensibilities.
I'll always talk about a show on its own merits, and then what usually will end up happening is they'll fucking do it for me and go like, oh, so it's like this? And I'll just be like, yeah, if that'll get you to watch it, yeah.
I also remember going on a tear a while ago saying that, like, there's a through line throughout a lot of, the modern cartoons that are being made for children right now. Adventure Time or Harvey or Steven or Clarence or Wee Babos or any of those are working for you. It's worth checking out some of these other shows that are contemporaries because they're coming from a similar place. They're coming from what I believe, it's hard to really delineate this stuff as it's happening. I feel like they're coming from the same artistic movement.
Yeah, speaking of Wee Babos, the weirdo with the beardo asked us if we do an episode on We Bare Bears, and that's definitely something we should do. Now that the first season's actually over and we're into the second season.
Yes.
Playing catch up.
Thinking.
At Gear Feathers says, Nikki is my most favorite goon, closest to my heart when he laughs in delight. It's so much like mine and so joyful, never stop.
Never will.
Karen says, I had a dream where I hung out with the Toon Goons and also someone took a shit in my shower.
We asked them which one of us did it. They didn't want to answer.
I asked if it was any of us, and she said no.
She didn't want to go there.
No, she said she said she didn't want to go there, so
I'm assuming that means it was one of us.
Yeah.
I was the one who asked her. I think it was me. I have to assume it was me.
Plarcy recommends an Adventure Time podcast called Conversation Parade. If you're, all caught up with our episodes and you want to try exploring the other realms of animation podcasts that are out there. And our buddy Charlie says that he went to see Zootopia and he got a theater with the most well-behaved kids ever. That might be a cultural thing because he's in Korea right now. He's stationed there. Or no, not in Seoul. He said he drove 2 hours just to see this movie. Way to go, dude. I hope you enjoyed it. And then Lantern King, it's like, I'm screaming at the end of Zootopia episode of Toon Goons. I'm glad you guys didn't forget about the bar tigers.
Almost did. Couldn't allow it to happen, though.
Couldn't allow it. No. Thanks to everybody who reached out to us during the past week or so. We read everything that you send us, and we really, really appreciate it. And keep it up. We love you.
If you want to contact us, you can shoot us an email at thetoongoons@gmail.com, tweet at us at the Toon Goons, or check us out on Tumblr, thetoongoons.tumblr.com. We've got some other stuff, but those are the big three. Yeah, we got a YouTube, Facebook, iTunes.
I put a new Toon Goof up on the YouTube, by the way. That went up.
The Bakano and Ever After High? I gotta watch that.
Yeah, I sound like I'm underwater.
Yeah, I don't remember that being a thing, but I guess it was.
Next week, we're gonna do that episode on We Bare Bears.
Woo! Yay!
And most likely the week after that, Masaaki Yuasa's Ping Pong the Animation, which, have any of us seen it?
I've
Absolutely
seen
not.
a couple episodes.
I haven't seen any of it. I'm very interested in it. It's the only sport I like, and I love Masaki Yuasa. You want to plug Metrospective Tooch, or...
Metrospective, we just dropped an episode on the first OVA and first movie of the franchise Mobile Patrol Pat Labor. It's really good, really fun about robot cops. It's almost like a lighthearted like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but with mechs.
Pat Labor sounds like the name of a white-collar comedian. Blue collar. Fuck, I messed it up.
And the second episode of my Sonic Archie comic Odyssey that I'm doing every month is going to drop soon. And I have yet another goddamn podcast that I'm making with my friend Trahan. I've wanted to make a podcast with him forever because he's such like my weirdest, goofiest friend that I love just talking to because he says the most craziest shit with me. And so our idea was just to talk about whatever, but we needed to frame it because, you know, you can't just have a podcast about nothing anymore. What is it, like 2003? And so each season of this podcast, which we've called Tooch and Trahan Talk, it's not a good name, we each pick a thing that we want to get the other into, and Trahan picked me to get me into wrestling, like American professional wrestling. So I've been, each episode of the first season that we're doing is going to be me watching one WrestleMania in chronological order from 1984 all the way to recently, and then we talk about it every week. It's been pretty great. We got a backlog going. Episode 0 went up where we just talk about wrestling in general and what I know about it starting off. And I'm up to currently I'm about to watch WrestleMania 6 soon. We try to put it out. We're going to try and put it out every week.
All right.
Cool.
A lot of stuff to look forward to coming down the pipe. Thanks, everybody. And that's not it. I've been Nikki.
I've been Nina.
And I continue to be Tooch.
And thank you.
Oh, birthday is a doodly-doo, a ding-dong doodly-doodly ding-dong-doo. A birthday, how do you do? Open presents, cake is too. A good thing to have on a birthday day. Yes, ice cream and presents coming your way, 'cause presents are good to open up. Hope there's something good inside for me. It's a birthday time of year for you. A happy birthday, doodly-doo. A birthday is a good time. Eat up the chocolate cake all night. Lollipops and sweet tooth got on your face. Put on the birthday time of year. Ice cream's cold if you eat it fast. A birthday, doodly birthday do. Birthday. Woo! A birthday, doodly ding. A doodly do birthday. Woo! That's a birthday. Woo! A birthday.
For tuning in.